Hey, it's Ben here from the archive, and the viewers have spoken, and so it's commentary by request time. Now, I've kind of fudged it, admittedly, so the one that got the most votes was Format Wars, but this is obviously Format Wars Volume 2. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One being that even though I'm talking over it, there's still all those movie clips in the original Format Wars, so I'm trying to cut down on copyright issues. But also, there's just some things about this one that kind of crawl up my ass. So I do intend to try and discuss the original Format Wars a bit here, but let's start with Format Wars Volume 2 here. And this was one of those episodes that I'd wanted to make for quite a while, but it was just lack of footage, and that's something that happens quite a bit with Archive. So, I can get tons of requests for it, but I'm not going to do it if I don't have the means to. I mean, that would be kind of pointless. So once I got some CV2000 footage together and some Ampex 1-inch footage and all that, and then I decided to go ahead with it. This little opening, I think I could have done better. I wanted the picture to get progressively worse as it's going along, as I'm touting how hi-fi, high-def Archive is, and I think I could have made it a little more radical. But anyway, this particular clip is from Sony CV2000. This was recorded just before the end of 1966. I think it was December 30th. The Milton Berle Show with Mickey Rooney. And it was, as far as I know, it is the oldest amateur off-air footage out there. Of course, that's subject to change, but for a while I thought it was some footage from 1971, which you'll see a little later, which was caught on presumably Ampex 1-inch. And in the name of full disclosure, that Ampex 1-inch footage, so there's the commercial with Rosemary Clooney in there. It's actually a VHS dub from, I believe, the late 80s, as is this Banjo and the Hollow footage, which there aren't that many working CV2000s out there, but at least some people had the foresight to try and dub it over just to something in years past, so that's how that survives. And of course that clip is a prime example of why it needed tracking control on the CV2000. Now, as far as this episode is concerned, like I was saying, there is one thing about this episode that just annoys the hell out of me, and I didn't catch it until a little while after it came out. And it's when I'm discussing the Telefunken Ted, which is German, and I had it in my mind the Deutschmark, German mark. And of course, being a prairie boy, a lot of people, like in my family, don't say Deutsch, they say Dutch. And so I had the word Dutch stuck in my mind. So when it came time to do the little stats slide for it, like an idiot, I wrote Dutch as opposed to German or German marks or something. So that's always really irritated me, and I've long had an explanation on the YouTube page for it, and an annotation, and I still get complaints. In fact, just as recently as just a couple of weeks or so before cutting this commentary, I still get complaints from time to time, just reaming me. Usually somebody from Germany or from Holland that just suddenly hates my guts, even though I've tried to explain it. And of course, you can't really have the annotations on the app, so like the Blu-ray player app. So unfortunately, I can't get to go through and redoing this entire episode just to change one word would be kind of pointless at this late a date. But it's just, I really try to do my best when I make Archive, but occasionally, sometimes I screw up, and that may be the one that just irritates me the most. And I'm sure, even after this, I'm sure I'll still be getting the occasional angry email, and I'm sure if you go through the YouTube comments on the original version of this video, there's probably still a few people that are upset about my saying Dutch, so I apologize. I've really done what I can short of going back and redoing this episode 500. These discs were one. So another thing that annoys me about this particular episode is that I think I kind of just blazed through it a little too quickly. Granted, I was kind of at the mercy of the relatively small amounts of footage that I was able to find of CV2000, Ampex 1-inch, Telefunken 10, and so on. But looking back at it, I think I went just a little too fast. Maybe I was concerned about maybe using a little too much of it. But I kind of feel like I didn't really get the point across as well as I should have. And I definitely should have said in the episode, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, about full disclosure that some of that stuff was actually from a subsequent dub. But I guess they look close enough as far as I can tell that I think you get a good feel for what the quality was for those formats. Nation. Of course, the paper-thin... Okay, so switching gears here, let's get into what everybody really wants to hear about the original Format Wars episode. And that was a request I was getting pretty much right out of the gate, and it was something that I hadn't even entertained the notion of, because when I came up with the idea of Oddity Archive, I was thinking very much cultural refuse in the more quirky, obscure sense, or minutia that maybe you don't really think about every day, like broadcast quirks, emergency broadcast, stuff like that. So when I was getting the idea for Format Wars from viewers, even that early on, I was just kind of going, is this really an oddity in any way? Because, like, for example, VHS, as far as I'm concerned, even now, 2014, VHS is still a very viable format. You can still go down to Target or Walgreens or whatever here in the States, and you can still buy blank VHS tapes. You can still get... Machines are plentiful. You might still be able to buy some new ones. I haven't really looked for one. I'm pretty happy with the one I have. But you can walk into any thrift store, charity shop in America and find one, and I think it's that way in a very good chunk of the world. So in my mind, there's nothing oddity about it, and it's not even really cultural refuse. But then I just started thinking about some of the stuff that wasn't making it to DVD, and of course I had never heard of the Found Footage Festival quite yet, so they were light years ahead of me on realizing just the value of this and just how off the wall some of this stuff could be. And so with just the idea in mind that some of this stuff wasn't coming out on DVD, and I already had a CED player, and I was looking at it and I went, well, yeah, maybe. But then there was the problem of, do I have a means of transferring this, a good means? I mean, what I do even now is far from professional. I think there's a lot of real preservationists out there that would just laugh at my efforts. But as far as I was concerned, I needed a method that was accurate, as accurate as I could get. And I had that camcorder that I used to use in Season 1, the old, very much Carpet Vision one, and I knew I could go out to the TV. What I did not know was that I could switch the direction, and that camcorder was actually a hand-me-down from my parents. My parents bought that thing new sometime in the early 2000s, and they had no use for it. I think they were getting ready to throw it out, and I took it because I didn't really have any means of filming anything, even though this was before Archive. I didn't want to see that thing go to the trash. I mean, I remember when we first got it, I remember that thing cost like $1,000, and I just couldn't bear to see something like that go in the trash, and it's a good thing it didn't, because once I figured out I could switch the direction on it, then it opened up the ability to do something like Format Wars, and it's opened up the doors to so much within Oddity Archive that you could film your home movies on. So when I finally got into knowing that I was going to do Format Wars, it admittedly was kind of an excuse consciously to show off my collection as of 2012. But the more I got into it and the more I got into thinking about the pros and cons of each format, I realized that, yeah, I can show off a little bit, but the real heart of this is going to be trying to highlight the best and worst of each format. And another shortcoming of that, and probably what annoys me most about the Format Wars episode, the original one, is the CED footage, because I only have a mono CED player and it's just plain old coax. I don't think I mentioned it in the episode, although I know I've discussed it publicly since then. So, I mean, even now I'm still on the lookout for a stereo CED player that works, that isn't $300-400. So I've never stopped looking, but it's something that's kind of irritated me. So, like, when I'm trying to show the best in CED, like, as far as I was concerned, the best one I had was the Linda Ronstadt concert that I had on CED, but it didn't have stereo sound, and the disc itself does, but I'm not getting that from just a plain old coax, and I'm just not a big fan of using coax stuff when I'm trying to capture footage. It's just the quality never seems to come out right. I'm much more of a composite fan, and I can do S-Video too, but I don't have anything that operates on S-Video, not even my Laserdisc player. Now, getting back to CEDs, the highlighting the worst was the Three Stooges disc, which is very much my sacrificial disc. And it's not that I don't like the Three Stooges. I do very much. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't, but I do. And so I even filmed the separate footage of it with the guts of the CED showing, just so I could have something to show in there, and if I screwed up the disc to the point where it was just total trash, no big deal. I could still hang on to at least the shell for the artwork, because I think it has nice artwork. But it did a good job of showcasing the worst in the format, and then that goes over to Laserdisc. Like, I have a few rotting titles, but I had to settle for what was the all-around worst. Like, I have ones with worse picture or worse sound, but as far as both, it's not the most extreme case, but it's what I had. So it wound up being Friday the 13th Part 2, because it had a snowy picture and bad sound. So there you go. And Format Wars, just looking back on it, it seems to be a viewer favorite, and I'm okay with that. I always have my little problems with episodes, but I think that one's turned. I think it's aged okay, and as cheesy as I thought the opening was, the Star Wars parody, I think that it's held together surprisingly well. So, you know, it still has that going for it. And yeah, we're already at the end of this episode, so I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and sign off. Thanks to everybody for watching. There's your by request commentary, even if it's a little lopsided. And, you know, we might have to try this again sometime, who knows. But for now, Ben from the archive, signing off.